My work that I do and what I do as a volunteer aligns with the mission of the YWCA in many ways. Through my work, I run or manage a food co-op which serves individuals in the Camden community that are in need of food. In addition to, I have ongoing conversations about race and racism and how we can break down the barriers of some of the stigmas around the isms of oppression.
Growing up as a little black girl in the Northeast has been all about making sure that I could be seen and unseen at the same time. So I grew up in an integrated community just after the major push for integration. So if you were a child of the 70s and 80s, your experience of race and racism was something that was different. Coming out of this wonderful time, it was just like joy, push forward, do your best. And so the mission of the Y to eliminate racism is, and encourage women or empower women, is one that I say just drives everything that I do because it's been a part of my life for 50 years.
I founded this entire organization because I'm passionate about the idea of inclusivity. And it wasn't enough for me just to help neighbors in need in Princeton. So inclusivity was something really important to me. How can we include everybody? And not just people from businesses, people from the community, but I realized that the community also encompasses the economy, the local economy. And when that's doing well, hopefully other people can thrive. A startling statistic for me that has always been startling, and it's getting marginally better, but not enough of that increase, is that for every dollar white person makes, a black person makes 97 cents. And that wage gap puts a lot of black people and people of color at a catastrophic disadvantage. So addressing income inequality, which oftentimes is due to that wage gap that I previously mentioned, that's what we're committed to, and I think it's awesome that the Y is also committed to that.
So working in the Department of Health, the New Jersey Division of Family Health Services, really gives me an opportunity to address health equity. We see health equity as being something that comes out of, unfortunately, racism, discrimination, and just unfairness. And so much of the work that I do and my life's work has really been committed to addressing disparities in health.
The Hamilton Area YMCA is a place where people from all different walks of life, ages, races, religions, financial ability, diverse abilities, orientations, come and share some space, some safe spaces. And I think what that does is enables people to realize that they have far more in common and far more similarities that they have differences.
I'm a Black woman in America, so I have a very vested interest in dismantling these power structures that keep women like me, women of color across the country, from being able to step up into their place of power. And everything I've done in my 35 years has been in furtherance of lifting up not only myself, but other women of color.
The mission of the YWCA has been a part of my life for many, many years. As a girl in Houston, I was a member, and in terms of ongoing volunteerism, even being at the food bank as a staff member, being the director there, also giving back to the community, remembering those things that my mother instilled in me meant so much.
One of the things I'm the most proud of in my life is the work that I've been able to do with the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, which is one of the 9 refugee resettlement organizations that works directly with the federal government to resettle refugees. At LIRS, we believe really strongly in the long welcome. That's the idea that our communities are better when they're diverse, and that any community can extend a long welcome, a hand of friendship, a little bit of help to someone who's new and different.
So I work in the south side suburbs of Chicago, and it's a very diverse population, low socioeconomic status, racially and ethnically minoritized individuals. And as a supervisor of the clinic, I supervise therapists in training serving the community. And then my research has to do with incarcerated populations and its impact on families. So looking at co-parenting relationships, couple relationships, sibling relationships, and how to better serve the community in general.
I make it my personal mission every day that I create a space where women can be who they are and can grow into what they want to grow into and can feel free to explore and make mistakes and grow. So I found that it's so important for me to use my voice and my platform to speak for those who aren't on camera and who aren't being seen in those positions every day. And I use the Ginger Peach as a vehicle to do that in the most healthy way possible.
As a licensed clinical psychologist and owner of a group practice in Ewing, New Jersey called Mindful and Multicultural Counseling, I really founded that practice a couple of years ago after a lifetime of work, where I really saw that there was really a lack of cultural competence and a lack of services for people who want to use insurance to improve their mental health and well-being. And so I really wanted to create a group of clinicians who happen to be female identifying to really be able to address racial trauma, to be able to address depression, anxiety for a wide range of individuals, and then also to offer workshops in the community on anti-racism.
I've worked mainly my hours and days and months volunteering in the past several years have been spent at the Princeton Public Library. And like the Y, the library really works hard to inform and enable the community. And the library's worked really hard to provide digital access and the equipment that people need to the entire community and beyond.
I am a YWCA girl. I reflect back on all of the things that the Y has taught me about being a woman, about advocating for your beliefs, standing up to racism, standing up for gender equality, for fighting for women's health rights. All of these things I learned at a very early age. And so I just want to instill that into our next generation.
The first and most important woman who has always encouraged and supported me was my mother, Nancy Barron, an attorney and really focused on compassion in a way that taught me so much. I have to also mention the extraordinary support that I have gotten from her college friends and mine who've all gone on to create interesting careers.
That'd be my grandmother, Johnny. The Ginger Peach is named after her. My grandmother was a woman in the shadows. She was never really seen for how great she was.
I think of my mother, who passed away a couple of years ago. She came here from Haiti when she was a teenager, not knowing the language. So I really admire that with all the challenges she had, that she was able to persevere.
Probably the woman who had the most inspiration in my life was my grandmother, and her name was Helen Kingston. And she was a Mensa, which means she had a super high IQ. She was one of the first women to be admitted into Temple University. She would always say, when my mom invariably or my brother would be teasing me for thinking out of the box, she would always say, "That's what's gonna get you ahead."
Of course, my mom, she is a genius. And I just think it was just a brilliant idea for her to put me into the YWCA.
My sister Trish, she taught me to be resilient and to work really hard and to take risks.
I put my mother at the top of the list. She was this very strong, but very quiet, soft-spoken woman, but who really took care of people.
The first person would be my mother, who came to Canada as an immigrant, as a graduate student. But more importantly and recently, I'd like to talk about a colleague that I lost to COVID-19. Her name was Colette Lamotte Galette. We worked together in the department for 15 years, and she was very inspirational and a big-time encourager to me and my best friend.
If your work's not speaking to you, if it's not fulfilling you, you're allowed to press pause if you're able and just reevaluate. and try different things and explore.
Reach out to those that you think may be able to help you or that you believe the work they're doing is important. Send an email, tweet at them, send them an Instagram message. Social media is so powerful to make those connections.
Don't be afraid to pursue big things. Don't be afraid to teach big things. And certainly recognize that everything that you do contributes to who you will ultimately become.
Have fun. Life is short. Laugh it up, dance, be excited about the world. If you are always ready, you never have to get ready.
Not to decide is to decide. You may walk into muddy waters, you'll have uncomfortable moments, but places like the Y are so well positioned to give women an opportunity to act, to come together, and to work as a team.
Since last March, we saw a huge increase in registration for food. My increase has been predominantly women and women of color that have been able to access the food pantry. So COVID has made a huge impact on the community of color in the Camden area.
My division specifically really works on family health services, so babies continue to be born, folks still need WIC, early intervention is still a much needed service. So we have really tried to reformat ourselves to be responsive to the pandemic, but to make sure that we maintain the safety nets for families that are so critical and so needed.
COVID-19 is actually the impetus for me starting the entire Mr. Rogers Neighbors Kindness Project. I was concerned because all of the homeless shelters in Princeton were shut down as a result of CDC guidelines. So I started this in order to help those people who are in need. So I started off helping, I think it was 20 people, and now we're servicing over 485 families in need in Princeton.
We had to pivot in order to provide very essential services that people needed. We provided childcare for first responders. We opened up our doors to provide a place for blood drives, and we managed to collect enough blood for 570 patients.
For LIRS in the immigration space, one of the things I'm the most concerned about is the impact on immigrants who are detained. In this country, for some reason, we detain immigrants in spaces where their health is not assured, and we don't always offer them health care. And I'm very concerned about the numbers of people who may have contracted COVID-19 during that time. And with a change in administration, I'm very hopeful, and I know LIRS is advocating for continued health care for migrants.
The story that we're hearing on a nationwide level is how small businesses are being impacted by this, especially the food industry. It's just getting hammered. And how we decided instead to use our resources to help those around us. Our pivot into who we were at the Ginger Peach at pre-COVID to after COVID felt like such a change, but it was so in line with who we were.
Unfortunately, right, the need for clinical services for people suffering from grief and loss and depression, anxiety has magnified.
It really has ripped the veil off of the health disparities that impact Black and brown communities, and how it impacts women. It really has exposed us to health conditions and access to affordable health care.
I strive to live a life that my mother lived in helping people help themselves.
Right now, I have committed to doing as much racial literacy education that I can.
I'm going to continue the mission of the YWCA with my work through my work at the YMCA. So collectively, we want to evoke change, positive change within our communities to help negate some of those disparities within our communities.
For me, being in elevated spaces and spaces of power and using my voice to speak truth to power is how I can work to dismantle racism and sexism.
by the research I do. Specifically, my research has to do with incarcerated populations and those affected by incarceration. And I'm also doing other studies that have to do with domestic violence, substance use, culturally competent care, co-parenting, all within a data set looking at incarcerated co-parents and partners.
Since I've retired, I've chosen carefully how I'd spend my resources and my time to work on the things that the Y believes in, both in Princeton and in Trenton, particularly eliminating racism.
What I really want to focus around is that outreach effort when it comes to advancing the mission of the YWCA. I want people to feel included, that they're a part of it. I want all women, all girls to know that they have a home at the Y.